Hello everybody, July 18th, 2022. We're going to take a look at what we said on Friday about Bitcoin. Last Monday we had a potential warning sign flashing from the bears, and we were firmly in the danger zone as of Friday. Right here I said firmly in the danger zone. We might see rejection on the start of the move to a lower low. However, the larger time frame Bitcoin indicators look like we've bottomed, and there are some key alts that I've been watching that are doing some great moves. I'll show you our results on a couple of those. And those alts are actually showing us impulsive moves. So if Bitcoin intended to make a new low, I really wouldn't expect that. So at that point, because of those additional factors on Friday, I said I do have to give the Bitcoin bulls the edge, even with the unclear and choppy action. So we have seen obviously this break now. As of today, the bulls broke over that 22.1, so they've removed the immediate bearish setup. Doesn't mean that there can't be a new bear setup that shows itself, but as of now, we do not have a bearish setup at this point in time. So just want to show you here. We did take profit today, just not all our profits, but some profits on an ETH long that we had. So here we go, 129%. Began to take profits here. This was an ETH long. I entered at about 1,085, and I took some profits above 1550. It was like 1567 or so. I took some profits on that. Not all of them, but some. And then Matic, we're up significantly. Bought the bottom on Matic, bought this down at about 37 cents. So we're still letting that ride. That's up 145% on spot. So this is 130% on like 3x leverage. That's 145% up on spot, which is pretty incredible. So that's just a couple of the alts that I've been watching that are looking quite good. So every chart has to be analyzed in its own right. And crypto is a little bit more difficult because you have to worry a bit about Bitcoin, of course. If Bitcoin just decided to tank from here, it doesn't really matter probably that some of those alts are looking impulsive. This would probably end up breaking that because they are beholden to the moves that Bitcoin does, at least in the macro sense. However, when it is unclear, as it has been, it's just been choppy action on Bitcoin, and the alts are showing us impulses, then the expectation is that whatever bull scenario that we have on Bitcoin is probably going to play out. And that expectation seems to be playing out right now. So I think the best way to look at this still is as a diagonal, most likely, because of just how ridiculous this action has been. There is, I suppose, a very, very small chance that we could still see this turn into an impulse. I really don't see it as a high probability, but let's just play that out just in case. This doesn't change anything except for makes it potentially more bullish, but what we have here, the only reason I'm considering this is that we have off of this low, which I have marked as 2 here, right? So we've got our first wave up. We've got a W, X, and Y sideways as a 2, as an expanded flat second wave. We do potentially have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not impulsive, it is a diagonal, but we do potentially have 5 waves up there to the 618, and then we came down from there to not quite the 382. We actually held above the 382, and that is a pretty typical move for a 1-2 before a nice strong move up to 3 of 3 about here, and then we'd hold a pullback and push up higher to about 5 of 3 here. So that is a possibility. We're just going to keep an eye on it and see. I'm going to mark it as a alternative. It really doesn't matter, like I said, either way this is looking bullish probably. This would just potentially be an even more bullish way to interpret this, and would end up here. So depending on how long it takes, they may end up around the same area, but if we do get that, is that the same degree? No, sorry. There we go. All right, so if we do get that, we can be even more confident a bottom is in. So these are our two paths upwards, right? The one I think we're taking is this, where we're going to get a diagonal, and it's not a hard and fast rule where this third wave is going to go. Usually it's somewhere in this region, you know, so we're approaching where I would expect a topping out point. The 1.236 is a pretty good target for this, so that's kind of where I have my diagonal set up right now. This can change though. If we go higher or lower, we can move this diagonal around to match with where it actually went. So we'll have to see once we actually have a top in 3 where that is, and then we'll adjust that diagonal. And then we'll just watch and see. If we play out the more bullish route like this, that's fine. If we play out the slightly less bullish and, you know, longer drawn out version of this, which would be a diagonal upwards, it's going to be a lot choppier and a lot less consistently bullish. You know, we're going to have a nice big pullback here rather than just a little shallow pullback. That is a possibility. So in any case though, we really should not fall below this point at any time now, because even though the immediate bearish setup is gone, let's go ahead and remove that, by the way. This was that potential danger zone, and this was the green line, 22.1, that it needed to break to get out of the danger zone. So we're going to remove that, going to remove that, going to remove that. And then this blue count was the bearish count down, which has been invalidated. We're not going directly down like that anyway, so we're going to get rid of that. All right. So what would we see if we're going to see a new bearish setup? Let's go over that. We would tend to see a topping out here, which doesn't really help us with this diagonal that we're forming, right? That's one of the reasons diagonals are so difficult, because they could just be corrective action until you actually have 3, 4, and 5 in place. So this would be, if this is going to be ABC or WXY up into this area here, anywhere in here, that is really where we'd expect to see it top out, anywhere in this region before going further down. So the only good thing that I can say about this is typically we're not going to see a 5-wave move down unless we are going to make a new low. So if this, you know, kind of pushes up a little bit and then gives us 5 waves down, that is a big old warning sign, right? That says get out, because the next, you know, get out on the next pullback, because we are likely going lower from there. So again, this is not the setup that we have right now. I'm just explaining what we would need to see for the bears to take over again. For the moment, that remains the least likely scenario in my opinion. And again, that's based on the higher time frame charts and indicators, as well as the bullishness of many of the alts that I'm tracking. So to that effect, let me change this to orange. So we've got yellow, I'm going to say, is my primary as a diagonal. Orange is my secondary bullish as an impulse, which I don't really believe, but I suppose it's possible. And then red, I'm going to put on as the bearish scenario here, which would be W, X, and Y somewhere in here. And we're going to make that red. So that would be our bearish possibility, right? Because it's always good to have these alternatives in mind, right? We need to see what our alternatives are and be ready for them and know what would make them probable. Like for this bearish scenario, like I said, the probability of that goes up if we see a micro 5-wave impulse off of a high, which technically we could see already. I mean, we did see a a rejection, right? That's a big old spike that we had up there. Looks like a swing failure. You know, we had this high and then we spiked above it. Usually that is a sign that a top is in. We'll see if this ends up overtaking it. We've kind of been pushing through those bearish signs on everything. So I'm not saying we're immediately going down here, but typically that is a bearish sign, so just keep that in mind. Let me go down to the 5-minute and see. All right, so I don't see anything particularly worrying on this chart. This is kind of what I'm keeping an eye on here. Like, do we see 5 waves down? I don't at the moment. Let's go down really low. Even this doesn't really look like a typical 5 wave. So not super worried right now. It looks like we'll probably get another high at some point, but we'll see. That looks more like an ABC to me. I suppose there's a chance that something like that is playing out. It's certainly not a clear 5-wave move in any case. Actually, it looks more like a diagonal of some sort. Anyway, you know, if this fails to make a new high and just does 3 waves up, you know, so far we just have 3, and this sort of starts pushing back down. May need to pay a little bit more attention to it at that point, but I really wouldn't be too worried about this unless in the slightly larger time frame it played out. So this would be, you know, something like this, basically. If it did that, then we can start worrying and talk about getting out of positions from that point. So, yeah, we'll just keep watching that, keep watching the micro action. Like I said, if something clear comes up, then it's time to get out. But for now, everything is still looking like it could continue upwards. And this is pretty typical of a diagonal. All of this chop is very, very typical of a diagonal move. So we'll just have to continue watching and waiting. Like I said, we really need to see all 5 waves play out. And this is where the major gains are going to be had, right? When we actually have 5 play out, that is when we're going to see the most major gains. So if either one of these, yellow or orange, plays out, the pullback after that, right? If we get here and then pull back, or here in the diagonal and then pull back, either way, that pullback is an excellent, excellent area to buy, because the expectation from there is that we move up strongly into a 3rd wave, which should start us off on our journey to potentially 130 or greater. All right, I think that's all I have for the moment. I will talk to you all on Friday. We'll see how the rest of the week shapes up, and we'll go from there. All right, you guys have an excellent week. Make sure you hit the subscribe. I always forget about this. Just hit the subscribe button so I can stop reminding you. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, and check out the suggested video. All right, thanks guys.